Hello everyone, my name is Michael K and welcome to a replica airguns video. I guess you could say this is part 3. I did a quick preview video of this gun along with my ISSC M22, which is a copy of a Glock in 22 caliber long rifle version. And again, we're looking at another 22 long rifle pistol. So no, this is not an airgun. This pistol we're looking at today, the Chiappa 1911-22 in tactical version, shoots 22 long rifle rimfire cartridges. And I do not sell this on my website because it is a restricted firearm, and I don't sell any actual firearms that need registration on my website. Now just to clarify, this is the Chiappa 1911-22 tactical. So there's a standard version which has different sights, and it also has a few other slight differences, like you'll notice here in the actual trigger, there's some pre-drilled holes, and I'll show you later there's some holes under here for a rail that are pre-drilled into this gun, and there's some slightly different sights on the different versions. Now there's also a target version, which is a step up from this gun, with sights designed for target shooting. And it's very similar to the tactical version with the exception of the sights. Alright, so again, why am I looking at 22 long rifle when I'm an airgun, blank gun styled website? Well, these are just really fun to shoot. I found over time my viewers are also interested in 22 long rifle pistols because of their economic price. They're economical to shoot. You can shoot them in a lot of places where you can't always shoot large caliber firearms. They also make for great training guns, as do a lot of air guns as well. So as I said before, I purchased this gun at the same time as I purchased my ISSC M22. I've kind of been reviewing them together and taking them to the range and shooting them together. And they're both really neat guns, very different styles. They both have their pros and cons. If you haven't noticed, this is a replica of the 1911 A1 with some slight differences. This gun is made in Italy. Now it comes in this nice hard shell case. I'll quickly show you what's inside. Alright, so you do get 2 magazines. They're plastic, by the way. You have this tool, and I'll show you that later. I'll keep that out for now. And that's for the safety, sort of a secondary safety. You also get this cleaning rod. It's always nice to have a cleaning rod. Just quickly show you the magazine, if it'll focus. There we go. Plastic, by the way. And of course, you get the manual, which I found is actually very good. Instructions are actually quite good in here. Complete instructions on how to do different things like tearing it down, field stripping it, reassembling it. Good instructions overall. Alright, let's go over some of the specifications. Again, this is a 22 caliber long rifle. Now it is a high velocity shooter, so I'd recommend you shoot high velocity rounds. You'll get a little snappier performance. I didn't have any problem shooting the low velocity or standard velocity rounds, but you do need to shoot 22 long rifle through it. This gun holds 10 rounds in the magazine, so it complies with our Canadian pistol laws. It's a semi-auto, single action only, just like the real 1911. Now I do want to mention the triggers seemed very heavy, so I don't really know exactly what the trigger pull is, but some people have said it's as high as 10 pounds out of the box. Now don't let that discourage you. Because of the type of metal they use, it's supposed to harden and actually become much lighter over time. So after about 2,000 to 3,000 shots, it should be somewhere in the neighborhood of about a 5-pound trigger pull, which is definitely much better. This gun has a 9-inch length in total. It has a 5-inch fixed barrel, so it's fixed unlike the real 1911, which has a floating barrel. This gun is just over 2 pounds, just a hair over unloaded, and it utilizes Chiappa alloy, so it's a special alloy. It's kind of a zinc alloy, similar to what you find in a lot of blank guns, and it also uses steel components for reinforcement areas. I'm going to quickly just show you a similar gun here. Now these two guns are very similar. This is my Tanfoglio Witness 1911 BB gun. And here is obviously the 22 long rifle, Chiappa. I still don't really know how to say it, so if I'm offending anybody by how I'm saying it, please forgive me. But you can see they're very similar and they're both styled after the 1911. Now this is a more truer A1 style with the truer A1 sights. And you'll see the sights are different because this is a tactical version I'm using. Here I'm showing you. But the trigger is very similar with the exception of the pre-drilled holes. Now the grips are similar. Backstrap safety works on this one. There is no working backstrap safety on here. Also wanted to just bring in the other gun I reviewed. I want to make sure that you check out this review. Really like the ISSC M22. It's an awesome pistol for the money. They're very similarly priced. If you like the Glock style, this gun is exceptional, extremely well made. There's really no compromising in this gun whatsoever. So make sure to check out this review here. Alright, so let's show you around the gun really quickly. We'll show you each side and what's going on and all the parts and components. So quickly just let you look at it first. Here we have the left side. Nice workmanship in the wood grips here. I like that. Now they are wood grips, of course. Again, the slide and the frame are metal, like the real 1911. You have the similar notches on the back here like you'd find on a real 1911 for raking the slide. Now you also have your Chiappa here. I'm trying to get it to focus. There we go. You also have your branding there, caliber, model number. You'll notice here the trigger, single action only. This gun has been checked over, so don't give me a lot of heck for that, but I've checked it over thoroughly. I'm not even going to fire it anyways, but it is single action. There's no double action with this trigger. You have your magazine release here. Plastic magazine, by the way. It does take some force to get it in. You have your slide release. I want to show you this really quickly right now. If I can get this to focus on here. It's going to be fun. Okay. We'll get in here. That's pretty close. But anyways, you can see there, this is where the slide catch will rest on. Now, one thing I recommend, especially with guns that utilize zinc or different metals that aren't necessarily hardened steel, be aware that whenever you rake the slide back, the slide catch will grab that. Now, if you just release this, you're going to wear that spot down over time, especially with BB guns and blank guns and guns like this that don't necessarily have the super hardened steel that you'll find in larger caliber firearms. I suggest that what you do is when you put the new magazine or the loaded magazine in here, which we don't have, this will drop down essentially when you pull it back. So when you pull it back, just pull the slide back and let it slam forward instead of using the slide catch. That saves some wear and tear on this area, and you'll notice that it's starting to just round a hair, because I wasn't necessarily doing that with this gun, but I'm going to do that in the future. I did do it on a lot of the magazines I put in there, but it's a good idea to just pull the slide back instead of using the slide release, and that way the slide will go forward and you won't put as much wear and tear on this spot right here. Now you'll also notice we have the true 1911 safety. Okay, so you can't pull the trigger with the safety in place. Alright, and there is no backstrap safety on here like you'd find in a real 1911. Now this isn't a real 1911, but this gun has a working backstrap safety, or some people call it a backstrap, but you'll get heck for calling it that. It's actually a grip safety, so please don't give me a hard time. People call it what they want. It's a grip safety technically. Some people call it backstrap. Whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. I'm not that technical. Let's take a look here at the right side. Again, pretty much the same. Just as nice looking on both sides. Of course, you have your ejection port here, and you have your ejector. Okay, other than that, there's not too much going on here. I do want to mention this part right here. This is like an extra safety, and so you use this tool and you just turn it that way. Okay, and as soon as you turn it, I was turning it the wrong way at first, but you turn it clockwise to lock it, and then you can't. Oh, I guess no. I think what happens there. Oh, see what happens? It was wrong. What happens is you can use it, but all you're doing is you're blocking the firing pin. So when you turn this, you're blocking the firing pin. Okay, so it's a nice safety concept to have, and that way you're not going to have any problems with this gun shooting accidentally. So it's a good way to store it if you want. Store it like that. All right. Again, you have some markings for different things here. You've got your serial number. Now you notice it says Kimar on it. Or Kimar, I'm not sure how you say it right there. But this gun, Chiappa and Kimar, same company, alright? And there's a lot of blank guns made by Kimar as well. So this gun does have sort of a blank gun similarity. Because you're not using high pressure rounds, it doesn't need to be made out of the same hardened steels necessarily as a larger caliber, higher pressure gun. But you'll notice things like this. You see the barrel is lined with steel, and around the barrel is that sort of zinc alloy that they use, and other parts are made out of the zinc alloy. But some of the parts that contact, that are going to rub together all the time, are going to be hardened steel, and the barrel will be hardened steel, whereas other parts will be zinc alloy. Again, let's just take a look at the bottom. There's really not a lot going on. I will mention this. These holes are in the tactical and target versions of these guns, so not the standard version. And what it allows you to do is add an accessory rail that you can buy from them. I believe it's about $20 for the rail. I think you can only get it from Chiappa. So, but it's already pre-drilled and pre-threaded for the tactical rail. So you can put lights and lasers and things. Alright, so let's pull this magazine out. Just take a quick look. Not a super exciting magazine, it's just plastic. There we go, we're focused here. Just plastic. Everything pretty much is plastic. But you know what? It works just fine. What I did on mine, I'll just give you a little heads up, is I preloaded them because I found, and I'll get into this more, I found that this gun has a light slide spring, and so when you jam this full of 10 rounds of 22s, the top one is going to have a lot of resistance. So when the slide comes back and tries to take that round and chamber it, there's a bit more tension on that because of the tight spring. And I found that with the first round, maybe the first two, when the spring in this magazine was new, it tended to want to bind a little bit. It didn't want to necessarily always chamber that first round. So I left the magazine full for about 2 weeks, and it did seem to help the cycling. Now again, everything with these types of guns, they do need some work in, and they do start to cycle better and work better over time. Now on the top of this gun, you can see we have actually removable sights. These sights can come off. They're not actually stamped into the frame or into the actual slide. They are removable. Same with the back one. The back one is adjustable, you can see. It's adjustable for windage, not elevation. A little bit different style than the 1911 sight, the true 1911A1, but this is the tactical version. Keep that in mind. Getting your ejection port there. Alright, so at this point I'm going to show you some real live action shooting here. This gun shooting at the range. I shot about 500 rounds through this gun in total. Seems to be working pretty good. I'll talk a little bit more about the performance when we get back here after you see the shooting video. And I'll show you at target some results I got from this gun. Alright, this is an indication of how I did. I shot this gun from 10 yards out, so 30 feet out. There's 20 rounds in this target. Now there's a nice little group right here of about 5 rounds, almost dead center. That's pretty nice. I wish I could have done that more consistently, but again, 30 feet out, freestanding position, not really taking a lot of time in between shots. I would say this grouping 6 to 7 inches in total. Not bad really overall. I think part of the problem I was having with this gun is because it had a very heavy trigger. This gun, out of the box, has about a 10-pound trigger, which seems like a lot, and it is kind of a lot. It's a little distracting when you're shooting it. You almost expect it to be lighter. Now, over time, this gun will lighten up. The trigger will lighten up to about half, so closer to 5 pounds. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that I'll get a lot tighter grouping when this trigger works in. Now, what happens is apparently the steel's hardened. You could tool the trigger a little bit, and you can probably get, I've heard you can get it down to about 3.5 pounds over time if you work it in and do some retooling of the trigger. And that would be nice. Okay, so I do want to talk a little bit about the performance. Now, one thing I like about it is it does feel very much like a real 1911 in the way that it's balanced, the way that it holds, just the whole size fit factor. Again, the newness of this gun and the heavy trigger was a bit distracting, so I wasn't able to get the kind of groups I think I'll get down the road with this gun when the trigger becomes more lighter. The gun overall fits good in the hand, like I said, and it's really fun to shoot. It's neat to shoot a 1911 styled gun. Shoot it all day for next to nothing. It's really fun to do. You don't have to worry about the big 45 caliber slugs costing you like 50 cents each or whatever it costs these days. Now the slide spring on this gun, like I said, is really, really light. So be careful when you're holding it. Do not rest any part of your hand on the slide or fingers on the slide or thumbs on the slide, because it may inhibit the actual movement of the slide and it won't cycle properly because of the light spring tension. And also, this gun needs to be cleaned regularly because any debris or bits of lead or anything that sort of jams up in that barrel will increase the amount of friction that it requires for the round to chamber. And because of the light slide spring, it needs to be free in there. There can't be anything inhibiting the round. And I noticed when I got up to about 400 rounds, and there seemed to be a little bit of debris getting up in there, and even a little bits of lead sort of starts to line the chamber just a bit. The rounds just didn't want to go in as smoothly, and I was finding that the gun was sort of jamming up. It would sort of pull the round in, but it would not go all the way. And you'd almost need to push the slide forward with your thumb, because the gun will not fire, obviously, until the slide is fully forward. So again, make sure to keep this gun really clean. It's important you keep it clean. And this gun will actually work really, really well for you. I found that once it broke in a little bit, after the first 100 rounds or so, before I got to that 300-400 rounds where I needed to clean it, it functioned very well. And again, keep the magazine loaded up. Get that spring a little bit looser. That'll again help those first few rounds chamber properly. When the spring's really tight, it's just a little tighter for the slide to grab that first round and chamber it properly. So keep your magazines full for 2 to 3 weeks, and that'll lighten up the spring just a bit. I've done that with several of my guns. I have a big 45 with the same problem. It's got a high cap magazine, 10-round magazine, and those first couple rounds, it just has trouble dragging those across into the chamber. And again, lastly, I just want to mention, when you're using this gun, I would recommend, because of the alloy in the slide, to not use your slide release whenever you don't have to. So put a new magazine in, and all you got to do if the slide's back is just pull it back a little bit. You won't have to use the slide catch release, and it'll just go forward. You're going to save wear and tear on this part right in here. Now, as far as longevity goes, I've heard that these guns have no problems shooting as high as 25 to 30,000 rounds without any problems. So I don't think that any of the things that I've mentioned are going to be a factor if you take care of this gun. And make sure to be aware of the suggestions I gave you. I think that'll help the longevity of this gun. Alright, so let's get into some of the pros and the cons. One of the first pros I'd say is, again, it's an inexpensive gun to purchase and shoot while still retaining that 1911 look and feel. I like the fact that it comes with 2 10-round magazines, at least mine did. It comes in this nice hard shell case. It's really a decent quality case. Now with the tactical and the target versions, you can also add a rail under the barrel. You need to buy that from Chiappa, but it's about $20, not too bad. Now again, this gun has adjustable sights for windage in the rear. It also has the fixed barrel for accuracy and for less moving overall parts. And that reminds me, I haven't done a field strip of this gun. I almost forgot. I'll do that after my cons. This gun also has very realistic weight to a 1911 at around 2 pounds. So it's got some heft to it. Doesn't feel like your standard 22. And again, it has similar dimensions to a real 1911, so it should fit in a lot of 1911 style holsters. And I'm pretty sure things like grips should be the same. Not necessarily internal parts, but definitely other accessories, holsters and things like that should work with this gun just fine. Now I'll quickly talk about some of the cons, and then I'll do a field strip here. Now the trigger on this gun is very heavy at first, and it's almost distracting. But I have read up on this gun. It is supposed to lighten up to about half of the trigger pull that you initially will have with it, closer to 5 pounds. And if you retool it a little bit, maybe do some sanding and stuff, you can get it down to like 3.5 pounds. Now there's no working grip safety on the gun, so if you're a true 1911 aficionado, you might miss that feature. And again, it came with plastic magazines. Not really a big deal. They're pretty much hidden by the gun. You don't really notice it much while you're shooting it. Alright, so at this point I'm going to do a little bit of a field strip for you. Not that difficult. Again, I'm working with a camera in front of me. I got to work my arms around it, so this isn't always easy. First thing, of course, you do. And this gun, again, I've safety checked it, but I'll just show you. It's safety checked. Okay. Next thing, well, what I find is, now the spring is so loose on this, it's easy to do. Just spin this around. There we go, till it's in this position here, and then it comes out. See, like that. Then you pull your spring. This part comes out. Now, all we have to do is pull the slide back and up and forward. And if you want to take it all the way apart, you can pop this piece out right here. Alright, it's pretty much out, all apart. You can see it's not a real heavy, hefty slide. It's fairly basic, does the job. Everything works just fine. Alright, we're going to put this gun back together. I kind of did it in a weird order, so I'm going to do it properly here. I'm going to put this guy in first. Put the slide on. Now, you'll notice that this piece here, you have to sort of push it down. And then it comes forward, okay? And then, what I like to do is put this all together, like this. See how it's all together? And then feed that in there now like that. I'm going to bring this all up. Actually, what they recommend is that you cock the hammer. That keeps everything together. So now this part goes in just the way you took it apart. And what you're going to want to do, actually, kind of made a mistake here, is keep this, see how this has got to go like in that dimension or in that orientation like that. Push that all the way down. Now the nice thing is, again, the spring isn't really that heavy on this gun, so it's pretty easy to do. Alright, so now we're good to go. Okay, everything slides and cycles properly, and we're good to go. Alright, so that concludes this review of the Chiappa 1911-22 tactical version. Glad I didn't forget to do that field strip for you. I always like to do that if it's possible on a gun. It's just nice for you to see all the internal parts and whatnot. Again, don't forget to check out my other review of the ISSC M22 Austrian-made Glock-style pistol. That's a real nice 22 long rifle pistol. Really enjoyed shooting that one as well. I enjoyed shooting both of these guns. I'm going to take them both to the range and use these guns often. Okay, so make sure to also check out my website, replicaAirguns.com. I have written reviews for both of these guns there. I've also got reviews and articles on a whole bunch of products, air guns, blank guns, pellet guns, accessories. If you're not one of my YouTube subscribers, well, consider subscribing. Never hurts. I've also got Twitter and Facebook channels. The username there is Replica Airguns. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, take care.